G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Govs Hero Review videos. We are continuing today in our Season 2 series, taking a look at the 5-star legendary yellow heroine, Dr. Scorpion, the Groundbreaking Inventor. Dr. Scorpion is available for summons, as we saw from the Neon City portal, which rolls around once every 4 weeks. She has been in the game for quite a long time now. She was added back in March 2022 as a part of SGG's drip feed strategy, putting new heroes into existing portals, just to keep you coming back and getting more and more options from that portal. It's a strategy they've used for a long time now. You know, PuzzleCombat, Empires and Puzzles, all of them. It's been there for ever, basically. So, as I mentioned, Scorpion is available for summons from the Neon City portal. We can see the odds featured right there. So there is a 1% chance for a featured Neon City hero and a 0.6% chance for one of the non-featured options shown. So if we were to put that in perspective and come into this portal doing 100 summons, we would have just a 63.3% chance of getting one of the 2 featured heroes and a 45.2% chance of getting a non-featured hero. So that's off 100 summons, which is going to cost you about 30,000 gold if you were to do it all in 10x's. So quite a big expense, and that is also for either of the 2 options. So if we were to break it down and go for someone specific, you know, we're going to drop that from being a 1% chance down to a 0.5% chance for the specific featured hero. And for an unfeatured hero, well, it drops off considerably because there's a lot of unfeatured heroes to divide that 0.6% chance by. So not the best odds for unfeatured heroes. If we flip over to my roster and we can take a quick look at her artwork, so we can see this is Dr. Scorpion's artwork. So she is one of the heroes or people in the cutscenes from the Season 2 story. I won't say anything to spoil anything if you haven't got there, but because of that, we do see this animation going on. All of the people in those cutscenes do have that animation. You can check it out yourself if you're curious, but she does have a bit of a tail wiggle going on there, as well as a bit of an arm jiffle and stuff too. So yeah, that's kind of her artwork. She is Dr. Scorpion, so she's got the old scorpion tail, an inventor, so naturally she's got cybernetic augmentation and that, but yeah, that's kind of her jam. Feel free to pause it if you wish, but otherwise let's continue in the hero card. So Scorpion is a member of the Hacker family, which means she is granted the opportunity to reflect status ailments from enemy special skills back to their original caster. So it equates to being a 15, 20, 25 or 30% chance for that ailment reflection if there are 2, 3, 4 or 5 unique heroes in a fight. We can also see that there is a charge generation bonus that is applied for the same number of heroes. So we get a +3, 5, 8 or 13% charge generation bonus for having those unique heroes. So notably, charge generation is applied in battle. It affects all of the charge that a hero gains. So if you combine Dr. Scorpion with 1 or 2 other heroes, they'd gain that charge bonus. So note that they do have to be unique heroes, so it can't be 2 copies of Dr. Scorpion. It's got to be 2 different heroes, like combining Dr. Scorpion with Whack or with Doodle as 2 different examples. In terms of her personal stats, so we can see that Dr. Scorpion comes in with 793 attack, 679 defense, and 1,403 HP. So there is quite a considerable skew going mostly from that defense stat towards the attack stat, but a little bit out of the HP as well. So we can see a very large attack stat. It is worth pointing out as well, her power is a bit reduced compared to some of the newer Season 2 heroes. So all that means is that the overall stat line that she has available is slightly reduced compared to someone like Topaz that's got 742 base power. Her charge speed is set to 64, which is fast speed, or 9 tiles to charge and 5 ghosted tiles. So it is only barely just shy of the speed break. So the speed break does require only +1, which you can do any number of ways. You can do it using any of the speed guns. You've got the +6 Ragnarok Vantage, you've got the +7 Triss Vector, which are a 5 and 4 star gun respectively. There's also a 3-star gun, which gives you +3. Or in a pinch, you can also use the 4% class node on the engineering tree at +20. The double break does require +8, which you can't do using weapons alone. Unfortunately, yellow is lagging and doesn't have a +9 gun. However, if you did combo it with either the +6 Ragnarok Vantage or the +7 Triss Vector, as well as the 4% class node on her tree, you would get that double break going down to 7 tiles. So the class node is of relevance if you want to get that double break, but it is locked away at +20, so you do have to equip quite a lot of emblems to get down there. On the topic of her class, as I mentioned, she is engineering class, which means she is granted the chance to summon a turret minion after receiving damage from any source. The turret minion comes in with 15% health, 18% attack, so it is a chunkier minion compared to a lot of the ones in the game. Those stats are inherited from the caster, so for someone like Scorpion who's got slightly reduced health, it is a little bit affected, but ultimately I don't mind the talent. It's, I guess, neither here nor there is how I would probably class it. It can be triggered from any damage source. It can be tiles, skills, ailments, minions, you name it. It's doing damage, it can trigger the turret minion. The downside is, though, that you only get 1 minion per turn at most, so it doesn't matter if you take 15 tiles worth of damage, Scorpion can only generate 1 minion. By way of an actual emblem path, I would go an attacking path, although you can make an argument to really go either way. You could go an attack path, or you could go the defense HP path. So for me, as I said, I'd go the attack path, but that's just my personal preference. So if we were to look at that on a tree, let's just ignore the fact that this is Michelle. So if we were to follow an attack path, I would probably prioritize HP over defense just because of the engineered talent. So we would be looking at picking up each of the attack nodes, and then when there is a choice between the two directions to involve attack and defense, or attack and HP, we would go the HP route. So we can see that's what we would look like if we were to be going an attack path. Now you could go and grab the +19 and +20 nodes on either of these. One gives you defense bonus, the other is going to give you speed bonus or charge generation bonus. But for me, I don't know, I'd probably +20 might be viable. But yeah, so that's the attack path we were looking at. So we are following attack and HP at each turn, and it looks something like that. Now, if we were to go, instead of doing an attack route, if we were to go the defense route, it sort of inverses it. So you could go defense and HP, or just HP. So I would probably go HP over defense if it's a choice between priorities, but it looks something like this is what we'd be looking at for Dr. Scorpion following the minion maximization route. And we can see there, we did unfortunately pick up a healing node. This side, you could go either way. Ultimately, the healing node isn't very valuable, but it does have the health node on that side. So either ultimately, I guess, if you were to follow that HP route for the minion. So yeah, feel free to pause it and screen grab as you need, but otherwise, let's head back to the portal and take a look at her special skill. So we can see her special skill is titled Shock Conductor, and at level 10 skill and 64 charge speed, it will deal 400% damage to the target. It will then apply the shock ailment to the target, where they receive minus 112 health per each buff received for the next 3 turns. It will then apply an ailment to the target, which increases turn-based damage by 50% for 3 turns. And then finally, will provide a resist buff, or an ailment resist buff, to herself for the next 3 turns as well. And this final effect cannot be cleansed. So, a little bit going on there. So, let's take a bit of a gander at it, breaking it down. Starting with the direct damage component. So damage is relatively easy to calculate, but it is a little bit hard to get consistently calculated because of the variability in it. So I tend to compare heroes based on their attack power, which is quite simply analogous and simpler than the damage calc. So it's their attack stat, 793, multiplied by the percentage in their skill, In the case of Scorpion, that's 400%. And when we multiply them together, we can see that the attack power of Dr. Scorpion comes out as 3,172. Speed normalizing against the tiles to charge, and we get Scorpion coming in at 352 attack power per tile, which ranks her number 4 of the yellow, or the base yellow snipers in the game. So there are 17 options in total in terms of sniping yellow heroes, and Scorpion comes out as number 4. Now, there is ones that are a bit higher than Scorpion on that list, right? We can see Topaz and Variant Stinger. They both come in at 393, 392. Sidestep is a tiny step ahead at 355, but she does also have minor damage to nearby. But then there are a lot that are actually worse than Scorpion. You know, you've got Tornado at 322, Digimon at 263, Hatchet 251, Stinger 186, Yolani and Nutmeg all the way down the bottom there at 133 and 145 respectively. So there are a lot of options on the yellow sniping list. 17 is quite a lot of heroes to choose from, but Scorpion's coming out as number 4. Now, it is worth pointing out as well that there is no actual mechanism to get more damage out of Scorpion. The 3 heroes that are higher than Scorpion all have... 2 of the 3 heroes higher than her have options to get better. You know, Topaz can hit an ailment, and that gives him more damage. Cooper doesn't do more damage. Sorry, Cooper has got higher damage. That is his second cast. Sidestep, she's got the damage when they get to 100% charge. So Scorpion can't actually go higher. There's no situational damage attached to her skill. From a direct damage perspective. There are other parts to her skill, which we will move on to in just a sec. One of them actually does damage as well, so yeah. That's the damage list, so feel free to continue perusing. But moving on from the damage, the next part of her skill is the shock ailment, which reads Shock. The target receives 112 damage whenever they receive a buff for 3 turns. So couple things to have a look at. So the damage quantity and the duration at 112 and 3 turns, they are the normal spread for shock ailment. Most of the occurrences of this ailment in the game are 3 turns in duration, and they also do 112 damage. So nothing outstanding there. One thing that is worth noting that's not actually explicitly listed in the skill is that it is per each buff. So heroes that do multiple buffs to the target will trigger the damage twice. So Senya, for example, she does a healing generation and a charged regeneration. Both of those are buffs, discrete buffs, so they will both trigger the minus 112 damage. The final thing that's worth pointing out as well is that even though shock ailment is in no way linked to turns or the passing of turns, it is classed as a turn-based status effect, which means that it is both enhanced by DOT enhancers such as Torrent or Whipster, but it is also reduced by dampeners such as the Zombie Family bonus. I personally disagree with this classification. I don't think, and I will stand by it, the shock ailment has absolutely nothing to do with turn-based. It is entirely procced effect. If you have 0 buffs that get generated during those 3 turns, there is 0 damage. So it can't be turn-based because it's got nothing to do with the turns. It is entirely a procced effect, such as, for example, the support attack as another example. That's just a procced effect. It's not turn-based. But yeah, anyway, it is interesting though that because it is turn-based, it does synergize really nicely with the next part of her skill, which is the DOT enhancement, where the target receives plus 50% damage from turn-based status effects for 3 turns. So it is a flat multiplier, this, so it is a 1.5x to the damage that is classed as turn-based. So these are things like burn, poison, bleed, wound, blaze, master weapon quest effect, the master weapon gun effects, and as I pointed out before, the shock ailment as well. So there is a nice little synergy there because of that weird classification of shock. It does make her shock damage inherently better than what is listed on the card. So because of the plus 50% damage taken, it means instead of 112 damage, they instead take 168 HP per buff. So a little bit interesting that it's kind of an inbuilt synergy. I don't believe that when they first released Shock to the game, this synergy actually existed. I think it was something that came about after the fact, during some release or other, an update, but it is a nice little synergy that exists at the moment, at the time of this review. The final part of her skill is the Ailment Shield, so the caster resists new status of ailments for 3 turns. This effect can't be cleared. So it does do what it says. It stops new status ailments from applying to Scorpion for the next 3 turns. So you will always get the full 3 turns because it can't be cleansed or cleared, so it can't be done via special skills or the Shell Shock ailment or anything else. It is just going to stick around there for the next 3 turns. It does apply only to herself, so there is limited effect or limited impact on a battle. So if you encounter Scorpion on defense, you just target your special skills with ailments somewhere else on that team. It's quite simple as that. But on an attack situation, you know, it's a 1 in 5 or 1 in whatever chance that the enemy heroes are actually going to target her, and you're actually going to gain that effect. So limited effect there. The other thing is that it is classed as a defense buff. For whatever reason. Again, it doesn't affect her defense stat, but see some other reviews where I've discussed this at length. But it means that heroes that have this bypasses defensive buffs and counterattacks line in their special skill will still apply their status ailment. So some notable ones that you've probably encountered are heroes like Sidestep, more recently Thunk, and then another one that's actually interesting in the game is Parsec and Shutdown. So there's a couple heroes out there that will still apply their status ailments, even though she's meant to have this resist in effect, because of that weird bug that SGG have got. So yeah, overall though, Scorpion is a good, if not great, sniper in the game. The Shock Ailment and the DOT enhancement have a natural synergy with each other because of that interaction. And then we've got the Ailment Shield, which sits on top as a nice little bonus. There are obviously better snipers for killing enemies, and they kill them faster, they kill them harder, but Scorpion is ultimately a solid choice in this classification with a lot of good self-benefiting effects. So honestly, as well, Scorpion is probably the best available option in the Engineer class, excluding 8-bit, of course, because 8-bit's completely busted for a 4-star hero, but Scorpion is probably one of the best, if not the best, Engineer available in the 5-star arena. So she does have that going for herself too, as emblem priority. So for Dr. Scorpion's grading, I'm going to give her a B+ for War and Raid attacks. As I said, a solid hero, usefulness with her self buffs, and able to really hamper a hero that's about to gain a lot of buffs from their allies. For the War Machines, I'm going to drop it down to a B-, and this is because she doesn't really do a huge amount for War Machines. She does have an elevated attack stat, which does help with tile damage, but that's really about it. In the events, I'm going to drop her down to a C+. She's got no real usefulness in events in terms of event competition or completion. Snipers tend to make poor event heroes just because of their limited effect, and yeah, it's just a attack stat that she's got going for her. On a defense situation, interestingly, she does make a fairly okay defending hero, in my personal opinion. So best suited probably to the wing, as most snipers are. Does have pretty good damage in the scheme of things, but is relatively fragile. So you want to protect her a little bit. So workable on defense, so I'm going to give her a B+ there. In our 3 tournament setup, so we've got Bloody Battle up front. So obviously, she doesn't really get any pro or negative from this. So I'm going to give her a B+ on attack and a B grade for Bloody Battle defense. In the buff booster tournament, where buffs do become a lot more prevalent, she does have the Shock Ailment, which helps towards buff boosters. So I am going to keep her at a B+ on attack and a B+ on defense. And then finally, we have our charged attack tournament, where hero speeds are increased or decreased from their base speed to 65. So obviously, Scorpion's getting virtually no improvement out of the charged attack tournament, so I'm going to keep her at a B+ and a B+ for her attack and defense grades on the charged tournament, respectively. So overall, for Scorpion's grading, that comes out as being a B grade for her overall attack and a B+ for her overall defense grade. And that about concludes the content that I have for this review of Scorpion, or Dr. Scorpion rather. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback, so please do jump down to the comments section, drop me a note. I try to read and reply to as many of you as I can. If you did find this content to be good, useful, helpful, and all of that, feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel, but most importantly, share the video around, because if this sort of thing is useful for yourself, chances are it's also going to be useful to the people you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!